Good morning, everyone. Exciting video to start the presentation, just like the product itself. Really appreciate you making your time this morning. As a brief introduction, my name is Jesmarann. I'm the Group Director of Business Development across the AWCape group of companies. And we've got a really nice panel of attendees here today, as well as yourselves. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to who's on the call. The first person I'd like to introduce is the Director of Sales at Sage. Her name is Erika More, with many years of experience, and we're glad to have her and hear her expert opinion on this fantastic product. Second person I'd like to introduce is Dr. Khalil du Plessis. He is our Resident Director of Professional Services at AWCape and has over 30 years of experience implementing ERPs, so knows a thing or two about financial systems and business. The last person on our panel, and probably the most important from my perspective anyway, is Marc Meiring. He is a customer who has taken a brave journey to take on Sage Intacct, which only released in South Africa in August last year. And we're very excited to have him in conversation today and understand why he chose Sage Intacct. And hopefully that'll lead to you making the same decision as well. Right, so at a high level, this will be the agenda for today. Obviously, we're just going through the intro and welcome now. We're going to give a chance for Marc to tell his story. Later on, there's going to be a little bit of a demo, and it's highlighted there because for those who are very observant in the invite, there's a bit of a spot prize. So pay careful attention to what's happening in that demo by Dr. Khalil later. And then lastly, we want to hear from you as well. We want to get some questions. There's no need to wait to ask those questions. There's a chat window on the right-hand side. You can ask those questions all through the presentation. We'd like to make it as interactive as possible. Really would appreciate your time. We want to make sure you get something out of this as well. There will be a poll, which you can, on the left-hand side of the chat window there, you can see. There'll be other interactions going through. Just keep an eye on that as we go through. But without further ado, let's hear about Marc. Welcome, Marc. Thanks for making time this morning. Maybe if you could just give us a bit of a background of yourself and where you come from.
Good day, all of you. Thank you very much, Jeff, for that nice introduction. I like the fact that I'm the most important guy today. Thank you very much. Yeah, with regards to myself, I grew up in a little town in the Northern Cape called Katu. I matriculated in 1994. Could not really afford to go and study. My aim at school was to become a lawyer, but that never came my path. So yes, I started off in the mines, believe it or not, as a bulldozer driver. And I worked my way up over the next 4 years to the research department of that mine. I then attended evening classes for the next 6 years, and where I studied at Pretoria Technikon along with working during the day to become a software developer. Got married in 2005 to my lovely wife, Annika. And yeah, I have 2 daughters, one aged 10, one aged 13. We now reside in a little town in the Western Cape called Langebaan. And yes, I never really saw myself as an entrepreneur. I really see myself as an opportunist. And over the years, I've developed a sense of opportunity. So yeah, some of those opportunities they have realized to businesses, some of them have not. But yes, that's in a nutshell who I am.
That's amazing, Marc. That's a really great story. I'm glad you didn't become a lawyer. And I appreciate you sharing that story with us. Yeah, I think you probably appreciate it as I do. Working from home at the moment with children is not as easy as it has been. So kudos to any parents out there as well, making the last year successful. All right, and you are a success, Marc. I think, looking at your companies and having gone through where you sit and the range of industries, like you said, an opportunist, I think you're more than that, and I think you're underplaying yourself there. Maybe just speak through some of your businesses and particularly why you formed them.
Okay, well, Colmed is a debt recovery company, so I've been in that business since 1999. What actually happened there, while I was working in the mines, I was approached by a person, also an entrepreneur back then, who then told me that he was thinking about me becoming a marketing or sales representative for him. Now, me thinking of myself as an introvert, I actually laughed at him. And yeah, in those years with the mines, I then decided, okay, let's give it a go. And yeah, with great luck, the first client I ever saw actually signed on the spot the agreement with me that day, and that was basically all I needed to become a good sales representative. So later on with Colmed, not with Colmed, with the previous companies where I was employed, I became a branch manager and then later the national sales manager. And yeah, in 2009, that company, the owner, committed suicide back then for his own reasons. And yeah, then we were without a job. So I started with a bunch of other guys. We started another debt recovery company, which we made a huge success. And then in 2017, decided to fly solo. So with my current partner, we have grown Colmed as just in fact, actually a bigger company than we were involved in before. And yes, so we do debt recovery for medical doctors and then also for schools, universities, and the education sector. Then I also have a company called Jesmarann. And then once again, like things happen to me, problems become opportunity. And back in 2006, I was using a builder to build a home for myself and my wife. And yeah, he ran off with about R1 million of our money. And yeah, being stranded, not being able to afford a builder to come and complete this home, the only thing I could do was to become a builder. And yeah, we finished the home. And then after that, I started getting requests from clients to build for them. And yeah, Jesmarann actually became, believe it or not, a very successful and big construction company. Then I'm also involved in CredEBill. CredEBill is a billing company where we actually do billing for medical doctors as well. So this is not like the debt recovery where you work with bad debts. You actually work with the current debts. So yeah, up in Joburg, I've got a company there, CredEBill, where we then basically do the medical billing, medical aid submissions, injury on duty, road accident funds, and all of that as well. And that was also something that I wanted to start for many years, but I did not have the billing experience. And then across my road came an opportunity with one of my old clients in the debt collecting industry, where we then started CredEBill, which has also become a very successful. And yeah, then I also have some other endeavors. I have based off software engineering. I have One Space Construction as well. Then there's also Capicon software solutions. Yes, so like I said, I don't really see myself as an entrepreneur, but an opportunist. I've also made mistakes. I've actually been, one of the companies I had was a hair salon, believe it or not. That didn't work out for me. And then also the carpentry business. So yeah, those are the two. The carpentry, the hair salon was actually very successful, but that was not my game. So I brought myself out there. So that's in a nutshell what I'm involved in. I'm always open to new opportunities. I believe in diversifying. But yes, along with that comes a lot of responsibility, and you need proper systems in place to be able to manage all of these things.
Yeah, Mark, that's an impressive story. I think you and Henry Hatting, our CEO, have some short stories to share there. There's a lot of similarities between, you know, taking things and just running with it when you can't find someone good enough to do it for you. I think, you know, what you also mentioned there, though, the learning from mistakes, I think that's a great example of how to survive in businesses. It's learning from those mistakes, and one of the ethos that we kind of live by here at AWCape as well. And I think, you know, what you want to do, though, is also have systems to kind of get you past those mistakes, or get you through where you shouldn't be spending your time, you know, your admin or things that are taking too long. And I've just put on screen there is a number of things that Sage Intacct's been able to help customers with. And maybe, you know, you want to talk through what the difficulties you've had in terms of managing 6 diverse businesses like that.
Yeah, running 6 businesses, essentially all of the funds comes from the holding company, Erasmus Trust. So yeah, we use the one company's money. You always start a company with nothing in your pocket. So I didn't have any investors or anything. So I was using money from the one company to start the next. So then you start with cross loans and all of that, and it becomes really complicated. So with having accountants off-site, it didn't work for me. You know, reporting was too slow. I needed daily figures on a simple screen so that I can make informed decisions as to where the stress points were in a specific company, where money had to flow, from which company it had to flow there. So yes, in the way I set up things, monies were flowing between companies, and you know, to keep track of that becomes tedious. and your risk becomes very big. So you need to, although you need to be sure that the holding company in a bulk is doing well, each company also has its individual responsibility to be successful. So yes, so that's why the older systems that we looked at, I wanted something new, I wanted something hip, something with new performance, a simple screen where I could see exactly in what situation my companies were at any given time. Because for me, it's not, financial statements are great, but that's in arrears. I need to manage cash flow. And that's why I need to have it presented to me every single day in a simple format.
The webinar makes it quite difficult for customers, our audience, to interact, but I'm sure a lot of them were nodding their heads as you were saying some of the difficulties faced. And I think, particularly with COVID and the changes in business models and things we've had to adapt with, it's really hard to kind of say business is normal, and I don't think it ever will be normal again. And you need that visibility and insight, and the system's going to support you as you grow. Just on that, for those in the audience, I've just loaded a poll. If you can start answering in the background, we'd love to get your insights on what are you facing in business right now, and what are the things that you would like to get out of the systems that you're investing in, or is it something completely different? Is it the people or the workforce?
Just repeat that again, Jeff.
So it's just letting the audience know that the poll's up there, and I can see that the responses are coming through, and it looks like actually quite a high percentage of the audience right now are saying that the new business models and growth strategies are where they're sitting followed closely behind with better insights, which talks exactly to what you've been saying, Marc, that things have been very different. You've got diverse business sets, and then also a big focus is coming through now on the digital transformation. So yeah, I think everyone's experiencing very similar issues. And I think, Sage Intacct is one of those products that can help you address them very quickly. The return on investment is high. The speed to market is very quick compared to most ERPs. And I think that's what we love about it. And maybe just take the next step here. Dr. Khalil, if you could maybe share on your insights what you have thought about Sage Intacct, and then maybe show a little bit of what we've done for Marc on that.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jeff and Marc. Yes, I must say Jeff has got quite an impressive background and interest in many different diverse businesses as not an entrepreneur, but as an opportunist. So our problem was to actually implement all of these wish lists for him. And of course, Intacct has many of these features that we can use to make Marc's dream come true. So I'm just going to show you and highlight a few of the features that we use. Of course, it doesn't, we need a little bit more time to go into more details, but I'll share my screen and then I'll highlight some of the features for you. Right. So as you heard from Marc, he's got so many different kinds of interests, and it's really difficult to be able to have a high-level view of all of the businesses at the same time, and especially being able to move cash and resources between the different companies. So Intacct has got the feature of entities, which allows us to use a single chart of accounts and then also to configure separate entities or companies, if you like, and being able to trade within each other and have intercompany transactions as long as they are within the same global, within the country, we are able to interact with each other, doing transactions in between each entity. So as you can see here, we've got a top-level view, and within each one of these are some of Marc's interests, allowing him to pick any of these to move and do inquiries inside each one of these. Each one of these can also be configured in their own particular way, so that they are very unique to each other. As you can see here, as I mentioned earlier, we use the same chart of accounts, so one is able to understand the information across all of the companies. A further feature that we were able to use very well is the feature of dimensions. So the dimensions are used for slicing and dicing, if you will, and give you more analysis on each one of your expenses. Also, as you can see here, we've got a dimension called construction projects. Now, Intacct allow us to also rename some of the to rename terminology so that it fits our business. And in Jesmarann's case, Marc preferred to call it construction projects, and so we were able to do that for him. So the next feature is the dashboards. We have very powerful dashboards built into Intacct out of the box, as well as several roles that has been predefined for us. Of course, one can adjust and adapt these to your own liking, but most of them are quite useful as it is out of the box. So if you look at, for example, the CFO here for Colmed, then you would be able to, as Marc mentioned earlier on his wish list, was to see a single view of what's happening in the business or across businesses. So here you can see several KPIs, indicators, etc., that we can that will display for him. So, for example, also here we've got cash on hand. We mentioned earlier on that cash is an important tool that one has to have in a business, especially if you start up a new one with no money and somewhere else, so you'll be able to see what is your cash on hand, for example. So these are so within from the dashboard, it's you're able to actually manage and drive your business from here by with a drill down function, a very powerful drill down function. So if we click on operating expenses here, for example, I would be able to drill down and I'll be able to see how is that expenses made up. As you can see here, this will give me a breakdown, and as you, I would be able to highlight or drill down into each one of these blue figures. If it's blue, it means that we can drill down into it. As you can see here, I can see office expenses is 21,000. We want to inquire a little bit more, so I can click on that, and on the flyer I can go and see, oh, okay, so there's a transaction that came up as 12,000 Rand. Wonder what that was for. So I click on that, and this will drill down for me into the next level of the journal entry. I might not still be sure what this is about, and I can see, oh, okay, let us look at this invoice, click on that invoice, and then I would be able to see what the transaction was for. So we can see we bought from supplier AW Power. That sounds very familiar. I've seen that name somewhere before. So let me look into more details there. If I edit this, I can see, oh, okay, so this was for an AW Power box. Interesting. So we might want to just move it out of expenses into fixed assets, but this is as simple as the write down to the supply invoice. I can see the details without having to get hold of my accountant or anybody else to be able to drill down. Okay, so I think, Jeff, this is
yeah. So yeah, thanks, Dr. Khalil. I think that's really what got us excited there. When we first saw the demonstration from from Sage of what Sage Intacct could actually do for us. And the fact that you could have visibility across the group and down to Nifty and then drill down. So it wasn't just a flashy tool that looked across the companies and gave you an overview. And it's all real-time data because it's a cloud-based system. That's the other thing. And it's also very simple to use. And for those financial and accounting people on the call, it's built by finance accounting people. It follows the right rules. It's accredited. It's a great system. So that was from our side. But I mean, Erika, you've probably sat through hundreds of demos since this product was released in August. Maybe you want to just go through what you think the customers think the main benefits and features of it that sells it to them.
Thanks, Jeff. I think when Sage developed with Sage Intacct over 20 years ago, it was done by the US, and it was developed with native cloud from first line of code, meaning it was never developed as an on-premise solution to be hosted later on. It was also with an API-first approach, meaning there was a big focus on integrations with other solutions. I think what we've seen, it's much in line with the trend in the market currently, especially since the start of the pandemic, that customers adopted cloud policy, or the digital transformation becomes very important to them. I think what I want to highlight here as well on the slides that you've got is basically two things. For Sage, customer satisfaction is very important. And Sage Intacct, not the first year, has won the G2 Crowd Sage Customer Satisfaction, or they've scored 98 out of 100 for customer satisfaction, which is quite really amazing. And then for this specific one, this is the Gartner report. So Gartner is the Magic Quadrants. They're the ones that do the research and publish the research. So for 4 years in a row, Intacct has scored the highest in core financials in the low and mid-sized enterprise, if you use this specific example, and they've outperformed their peers for the last 4 years, which is also quite amazing for best-in-class solution. You asked me about the benefits. Definitely dashboards. I think that's the main one. Also, if you look at taking financials to the cloud, it means that you don't need to maintain that infrastructure any longer. You can cut costs and you don't pass those costs on to your customers any longer. If you can cut down on servers, firewalls, IT divisions, staff, consultants that you need to get in to run backups for you. So Sage will run the backup. We'll do disaster recovery. We ensure that there's compliance. We'll talk about the compliance later on with the roadmap as well. It's very secure, scalable, and then also it's available 24/7 on any device, literally anywhere. I think those are the main ones, Jake.
I hear you. I think, that what really sold this product is the amount of features and continually getting even better. I think, Dr. Khalil, if you don't mind, maybe just show a few more features on the product for the audience, because it is quite an exciting product. And I think particularly around Marc's case, some of the functionality we used to make the transition for Marc from an outsource into an in-source model.
Yes, Jeff, there's just one more feature that we were able to use very well with Marc during the implementation. And since he had, to be quite honest, most of the business was run on the largest ERP system that is known today, which is Excel. So, so we had to transfer and bring data into the system from many disparate spreadsheets that we were using to manage. So if we look here, we've got import data, and this allows us to, from the chart of accounts to groups, to entities, to as the customers and suppliers, as well as invoices and the customer, especially supplier invoices that had to be taken on during the process. What also makes it very easy is that you can simply use, it's got features here that I can download a template and very easily know what to populate. And from here, we simply import and upload the information. Other further into features is the API feature, which can be used for integrations as well. And I think, Jeff, you'll speak a little bit more about that. You and
yeah, I mean, Marc, I think, you know, this is such a powerful product. It's impossible to show everything in such a short space of time. So I'd like to make an offer to the audience. If you would like a free, no obligation demo of Sage Intacct, we're quite happy to do one for you, and we'll customize that to your business. You know, you may have a stronger financial need, whether it's or maybe you have fixed assets or contracts as part of it, or as Marc's business, it was around projects and construction. There's a way to kind of customize that demo for you as well. We'd love to hear from you, and you can see if it's the right fit for your business. On to you know, discussing, Marc, we did mention, let me give the chance for the audience. We did mention that we're going to do a spot prize. So I think it's probably opportunity time to let the audience get something back as well. So I hope you're paying attention to Dr. Khil's first demo. And the question that you need to answer in the chat window to kind of win a chance to win the prize is to answer what was the item that he purchased. And there's 5 choices on the screen. You can either just put number 3, or you can put 1 to 5. And then you can tell us which item was purchased and stand a chance to win. And then we'll have that randomly selected by Marc.
Can I take part?
I wish, Marc. I wish you could both take part. It's a fantastic prize. All right, Marc. While people kind of put the answers in the chat window there, maybe you just want to kind of talk through to some of the items that. You know, why did you choose Sage Intacct, and what was the selling points for you?
Well, Jeff, Erika mentioned most of the benefits now, but from my part, I wanted something that was in the cloud, something that I could access from anytime, anywhere. I don't want to, like Erika mentioned, a whole IT department with hardware on site, software to be managed, licenses, all of that. So. And yeah, that's the long and the short of it for me. So somebody else takes care of backups. And yes, this was just a brand spanking new product, giving you all of the latest we have on offer in the market. And I can just mention, I mean, in this short period of time on this webinar, I mean, of what we've shown your potential clients now is not even 1% of what this program can offer. This program the software can uniquely adapt to your specific business. I mean, I'm in various different types of businesses. So it's not just a normal income, expenses, GLs and all of that. So I needed specific variables. I needed specific fields, etc., to be added to the system. And the system is really powerful. I don't think today's webinar gives not even a tenth of what the system has to offer. And yes, what was important to me as well was, how would the transition go? I mean, I've got all this data. I'm moving over to a new system, and it's a nerve-wracking process. I mean, what will the data look like when it comes out on the other side? And yeah, was that what you thought you put in, what you're going to get out? I mean, you had an idea of what your figures look like pre-implementation. What is it going to look like post? So yes, the imports were a strong thing for us. And then, yes, the support from you to your team as well to set up this whole thing to uniquely fit not only the group, but every unique entity within that group. And yeah, the integration and automation for me is key. It is my view that I'm always of the view that I want to automate and integrate as much as I can. Human beings, yes, we don't want to put people out of work, but we do have to keep our costs down. And humans make mistakes. They work office hours. They take lunch. And if you can get this thing set up in the correct way, like you did with our companies, I mean, I'm already seeing the value that it's adding to our company.
Yeah, fantastic, Marc. I appreciate that. I think, you know, you and I are very aligned and from the IT background that although automation can be taken negatively in terms of job loss, it also creates jobs. I mean, it effectively allows businesses to better see their finances and insights, and therefore grow their company and employ more people. And I think, you know, as entrepreneurs, the well-quoted stat is, you know, small businesses employ 2/3 of the world's population. So people like yourself are integral to the success of the economy. So I'm glad that this product is helping you grow and get to this where you want. Just briefly on what we're showing on the screen there's something like over 200 cloud apps in the Sage marketplace, but it also got a very well documented API, sort of 95% or 99% of all the functionality that sort of Khalil showed you briefly on the screen. You can do that through the APIs, which means you can seamlessly integrate most systems into Sage Intacct, and you don't have to worry about manual processes in the back end. And if there is something that's customizable, we've done that for a few other clients, we can build it through our integration team. We've got a couple of platforms, and that's what you want. You don't want to be sitting in an environment that you've got disparate systems that are not syncing data, because then you're going to have multiple reports in multiple places. It really doesn't work for you. So yeah, I'm totally aligned with you on that, Mark.
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
I think one of the other powerful things about a cloud-based software, as opposed to some of the legacy products that maybe some of the audience have, is the speed to market of new features. I know in my days in working and consulting, I think a lot of the frustration with customers was around how long it would take to get the feature that they needed to make their business work. Some, it would be at least a year. Some it would be 2 years, depending on the size of the ERP. Whereas with Sage Intacct, it's rapid. It's every quarter there's new releases. It's pushed out to all the customers, and you can see on the slide it was over 200 features released in the last year. So Erika, maybe if you just come in here and explain a little bit more around what has just been released and what customers like Mark have something to look forward to in the near future.
Yes, Jeff. So 2 ones I want to highlight today would be the Intelligent GL, and the second one is the Interactive Visual Explorer. We're looking at, like you say, the roadmaps, quarterly releases, so we keep on enhancing the product as we go along. Also look at what the customers need. We add that on the roadmap or request that on the roadmap, so there's lots of functionality coming out. So first one, the GL Outlier Detector. So what that does, it's basically a machine learning or artificial intelligence AI tool that sits in the core of the solution, which means you don't have to pay anything extra for that. So what it does is, when you do post anything to the journal, it looks for anomalies or outliers or anything that's out of the ordinary, really, and then flags it. So you can decide who's the pre-selected user that needs to be notified. That person will be notified by email, like, for example, Mark, and then you can decide would you like to reject or accept that transaction. It just gives you insight into your business, makes it easier to understand, and be more strategic in your approach. The second one, Jeff, would be what we call the IVE, or Interactive Visual Explorer. Now, this one is for people that love pictures. So if you like dashboards and graphs and pie charts and maps, anything along those lines, this is definitely a module that will work well for you. It assists you. It's a toolkit or BI tool that allows you to visualize all your data. So allows you to put everything into in these sort of graphs. You can then write your own as well, or design your own, but it comes stock standard with quite a number already. And then it's easy and nice to use them in presentations, so that we don't have to use, like Dr. Khalil said, the oldest ERP system in an Excel format. So yes, I think these two are the nicest ones that were launched recently.
Yeah, and I think, Erika, you touched on two things there, the core underlying principles. One, it's the latest technology. I mean, you talked about machine learning there. I know that they've also released artificial intelligence timesheets, which will make, the capturing of timesheets across your Outlook as well, which is fantastic. And I know there's a move to, always quoted as the continuous close. So from a financial perspective, the business is always as up to date as if month end has just happened. And then the last one here, this interactive visual tools, I think, the business needs insights on what's happening in their business. And although we kind of just glanced over it with like Dr. Khalil's mention of dimensions, the fact that you have dimensions and statistical accounts means that your financial system now can be used to visualize data that wasn't previously seen as financial data. As long as that transaction was tagged, you can start doing some real operational reporting through your financial system. The casing example we always talk about is the hotel occupancy rates, how many beds have been used, as opposed to just what the profitability is of the hotel. So I think there's some really fantastic things, and I think the scope is going to get bigger and bigger of both of these features.
No, definitely.
All right, so I mean, we've come to the end of the presentation side, and this is the time for you guys in the audience to interact. And I see there's been a few questions through the session that we'll address straight away. And then if you can just start typing some questions in the chat window, and we'll address them. I ask all the panelists if you could just show your faces so I can direct the questions appropriately. I'm just looking right at the beginning there from Sam. How does Sage handle the protection of personal information, POPIA? That's a very key word going at the moment, related to data being stored in the Sage's cloud architecture. I think I'm not going to pass the buck, but I think, Erika, you're probably best placed to answer that one.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, there's quite a few things happening in POPI now. It was renamed recently, just so you know. It's called POPIA. It's been going around in Sage as a big joke because we're not sure if we're pronouncing it correctly. Some called it papaya, but it's definitely POPIA apparently. So yeah. So what I can say to you is the POPI Act or the POPIA Act is so intertwined with GDPR and CCPA that as long as those two are covered, which they are, you're safe to use Sage Intacct and everything is secure.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's good to know. I think, one of the concerns a lot of people have about moving to cloud is data security. And I think one of the things that you've got to get your mindset around is if the provider is the size of Sage, for example, or your AWS or Azure and the platforms that are being used, the economies of scale kick in and their expertise are going to be much more than your internal IT department will ever be able to do in terms of protecting your data. So yeah, I really think it's a great thing about being part of the cloud environment. All right, so the second question that's come up there, which payroll system can be used with Sage Intacct? Dr. Khalil, will you take that question, please?
Yes, it's very easy. It's Sage 300 people, and it's integrated at the moment with Intacct.
Okay, that's great, Joe. I think, look, as we discussed the APIs previously, there's no restriction in terms of bringing in data, and with the import functionality, you could do that as well. And with a very basic scheduler, you can import and export data very quickly without any manual intervention as well. Okay, and then we've got a question from Ella de Freitas. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. What is involved in the migration from Sage Business Cloud Accounting to Intacct? I think, Erika, maybe you can just talk to that. What is the journey from a customer really from Sage Business Cloud Accounting to Intacct?
So from Sage Business Cloud Accounting, it's quite easy to migrate the data across. It all depends what data they'd like to bring across. There's easier and more difficult ways, but we have migrated, I think, thus far about 5 or 6 customers in the last 2-3 months. So pretty much as easy as it gets, Jeff. It all depends what, like I said, we can extract the information and then migrate everything that you'd require. So that, like Marc said, it needs to be sure that when it's there, when it opens up and the dashboards are there, that all the data is available.
Yeah, and I think, Khalil, this is kind of a standard question for most migrations. Maybe you just give insights on how much data we would normally bring through in terms of balances and financial years.
Yeah, right. So it normally would be the balances for take-on balances, general ledger. And if we can, we'll bring through transactional data for the general ledger so that you have net movements for previous years. And then on the receivables and payables, we'll bring across most of the time the unpaid open items, open invoices or unpaid invoices up to the time that we are starting with the changeover. Of course, other things such as bank balances, fixed assets, whatever else we need to bring across. So, and we can migrate these all through the import functions.
Fantastic. Okay, and then on sort of the while I've got you on the line, Doctor, there's a question from Yolandi on recurring billing.
Yes, recurring billing is a standard feature in Intacct on the receivables and payables side.
Fantastic. Okay, and then Scott has asked, Erika, I think this is a good one for you. Sorry, Mark, you feel like you're not getting questions directly here. Maybe someone will pop one up for you now. But Erika, I think this question is around where the data is actually stored, and maybe just talk to the Sage's data architecture.
Okay, so Sage Intacct is hosted on the AWS platform. We don't have a data center in South Africa. We've got a couple of data centers across the world, globally. There's a big one in California, but the one we use for South Africa is sitting in the UK, in Ireland. So that's where the data currently sits.
I hope that answered your question, Scott. If you have anything else, I mean, I know working with GDPR previously, I mean, Germany specifically had to have data centers locally. I don't think that's a requirement from Poppy, from what I understand, as long as it's in a secure environment, because I know the banks have had to get around that because we didn't have data centers previously and there was nothing from a hosting environment previously. So I hope that answers your question. And then Christo's asked, is there a built-in job costing model or do we need to purchase one? I think, Dr. Khalil, I think you know the product probably better than most. You want to go through that?
Right. So project and job costing or project module is available. However, it is an add-on. It's an option that you have to select when you purchase. And you can switch that on anytime as you implement. It doesn't have to be right from the beginning. You can do it at a later stage, and it then fully integrates into the payables, banks, and of course your general ledger. And it comes with quite a range of project reports, standard reports that you can use.
Yeah, and I think just talking to that, I mean, you briefly mentioned, maybe just talk to how you constructed Jesmarann, or how we're going to do for the projects with the dimensions. That is not necessary sometimes to have a full project job costing module. It can actually be done through the dimensions.
Right. So it depends on the requirements. For Marc, Marc didn't want to go as far as a full job costing module, since also based on the amount of resources he has to actually manage all of the data input and so on that is needed. So we opted for the option of using, and I did mention it during the presentation or the demo, that we could use one of the dimensions that we were not going to use for any of the other, for the rest of the implementation. We could use the terminology rename it to projects. So we can use that then until such time that they've grown the business big enough that it warrants a project and job costing module, and then we can implement that from that point onwards. So initially, that will give us enough reporting and segmentation to be able to report by project.
Yeah, and I think that's key. And, you know, no one wants to invest ridiculous amounts of money to have all the functionalities that they're not going to use straight away. And I think, Marc, we've had this conversation on a number of things and with other customers in terms of implementation. So, for example, there's a very powerful fixed assets module within Sage Intacct. But for a lot of customers, they have maybe 100 fixed assets, and to manage that through Excel is actually probably better than paying the amount of money that you're doing, and you just import that data and it reconciles really nicely, and you can actually have that synced so that you don't need to actually do the manual import either. So yeah, there's lots of workarounds that can save money and still make the system as powerful without actually spending the money on the module. So that's quite a key point. So, Erika, there's another one on data. It's obviously quite an important topic at the moment. It's worth noting that there's a link to an article around government's plans to own and control all electronic data. It's been shared in the chat there, and I'm sure you've heard some of this. So it's really around how agile are you when government proposes these sort of policies, and do customers carry the risk?
So, answer to that would be we've got a whole legal team and compliance team that looks after this division and aspects with regards to all our solutions. We work very closely with the US and the UK. Our head office is in the UK, so GDPR, all of those things, we work very closely with them. So, I mean, they won't roll this out overnight. So we will, if anything like this is rolled out, I mean, forced on us, that's definitely something that South Africa will invest in and will ensure that it is compliant.
Yeah, and just to give sort of peace of mind to you guys there, I mean, any government initiative, if you take DebiCheck, that has been rolled out, it's taken something like 6 years in terms of rolling that out into the market. And that's, you know, this would be very similar. The scale of what they're kind of asking there and the monitoring of that data, it's going to be very hard to implement a system like that for the government. So I think we've covered all the questions. I don't know, Marc, if you've had a chance to see all the correct or incorrect answers, and maybe make a random selection of who you think is deserving of the prize. Have you had a chance to go through that? You're just on mute, I think, there. Sorry, Marc, I think you're just on mute and missed that.
Apologies. You can. I've chosen the winner, so you can just announce it.
Okay. Where have you put it? Have you put it onto the chat window? Or you
onto your WhatsApp?
Oh, it's the WhatsApp group. Sorry, there's about 4 different pieces of technology. Okay. Right. And the winner is Scott. I hope there's not more than one Scott on the call. I'm guessing it's Scott Barrett.
Scott Barrett, that's correct.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Scott, congratulations. We'll need to get your details, obviously, and as you know, it's an AW Power Box. This is one of the companies in our group. It'll help you keep the lights on during load shedding, which is obviously something that we believe in terms of growing the business from a renewable energy space, as well as making sure our economy grows and supporting small business and entrepreneurs. So well done to you, and you can use that in your work from home office. And if there's anything else you guys want to drop in the chat window afterwards, or an email, contact us directly. We're happy to entertain that. As mentioned, we really would like to do some more demos for you on your business of Sage Intacct. We believe this is a great product. There's a lot of material online. There's a number of files that we've shared that are available in the chat as well. If you go look there, you can see a little bit more about Sage Intacct and why you should move to the cloud. Yeah, so I hope this has been a valuable time for you. I know it's time is valuable, and there's 13 minutes left, so we're quite happy to stay on and answer any more questions. But yeah, please go well, and thank you for coming.
Jeff, just one last thing. Maybe just remind them to go to the office section and just do a survey quickly.
All right, yes. So we obviously want to make feedback, and we're going to be running a number of surveys off webinars going forward. We really like to get your feedback, what we can improve, what worked well, was there enough demoing, that sort of feedback. Really like to get a bit more improvements on where we are, and if you'd like to be contacted. So if you can just go to the office section and express your interest there as well, that'd be fantastic. Thanks for the reminder, Erika. All right. So thanks panel, Erika and Marc as guests. Thank you very much, and Dr. Khalil for a great demo. I appreciate everyone's time.
You're welcome. Thank you.